Before we dive into this latest sci-fi epic, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching.
The static hissed like a dying man's last breath. Captain Elias Varga's blood dripped onto the cracked console as Saturn's corpse loomed through the fractured view screen, her once majestic rings now shattered into glittering debris. This is Captain Elias Varga of the United Nations ship Perseverance. To any surviving human forces. An explosion rocked the bridge. Ensign Riva screamed as a conduit burst, showering her in sparks that danced across her singed uniform. The acrid stench of burning insulation mixed with the coppery tang of blood. Do not engage the Kessari fleet. Their weapon isn't a planet killer. Varga's eyes darted to tactical. The Kessari flagship, a jagged obsidian dagger 3 times their size, pulsed with sickly violet light. It wasn't firing to destroy. It was hurting them. It's worse. They trap ships in some kind of time prison. 1 second for them is years for you. They want us to. Captain. Science Officer Chen's voice cut through the chaos. They're activating the field. The stars behind the Kessari ship stretched like taffy. Space itself screamed, reality peeling back to reveal a wound of twisted light. Default, if you're hearing this, we've already. The transmission cut off midward, not with static, with silence absolute. Word counts so far, 250. Consciousness returned in jagged fragments. Varga blinked against the unnatural blue light flooding the bridge. Shadows stretched impossibly long, as if the ship itself recoiled from violated physics. His mouth tasted of burnt copper and defeat. Report, he croaked, wiping blood from his split lip. Chen's hands trembled over a console. External sensors show, Captain, these readings can't be right. Engineer Rykov laughed, a raw, broken sound that echoed through the bridge. Oh, they're right. Look. The view screen revealed the Kessari fleet frozen mid-maneuver, their weapons glowing at half intensity. Beyond them, stars stood motionless as paintings. Temporal dilation field confirmed, Chen whispered. She swallowed hard, the sound loud in the thickened air. 1 second out there, her finger traced the calculations. 10 years in here. A baby's cry pierced the silence, the first birth since the war began. The sound hung between them, a fragile bell tolling their doom. Varga's comm crackled. Captain, Dr. Singh's voice trembled. Cryopod 14, just Private Mendoza, aged 50 years and 5 seconds. She's gone. Rykov's fist hit the console hard enough to split his knuckles. Bastards didn't even give us a clean death. Varga looked at his surviving crew, 23 souls. At the 5,000 civilians in cryo. At the newborn's wails echoing through the ship's corpse. His voice didn't shake when he spoke. Then we'll make those years count. Outside, the Kessari hadn't finished turning their ships away. The hydroponic gardens smelled of turned earth and antiseptic, the scent of a hospital built atop a grave. Captain Varga stood over the first burial mound, a frayed copy of the Odyssey trembling in his hands. Around him, the surviving crew stood silent, their uniforms patched and repatched until the original fabric was memory. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, Varga recited, though Hideo Tanaka had been neither. The engineer's oxygen-starved body now nourished the soy crops that might keep them alive another year. The sakura seedling they planted above him, salvaged from Earth's last arboretum, would likely outlive them all. A tiny hand grasped at the falling soil. Elia, Lieutenant Chen's granddaughter and the first child born in captivity, babbled as dirt sifted through her fingers. Chen caught Varga's eye over the baby's head. Neither needed to say it. They'd be bones before Elias saw adulthood. Rykov approached, wiping grease-stained hands on pants worn translucent at the knees. Got the water recyclers working. Sort of. He nodded to the grave. Hideo would have cracked it in an hour. Varga closed the book, its spine cracking like old bones. Status: food stores at 18%. Oxygen recyclers holding, but the CO2 scrubbers. Rykov's jaw worked. Maybe 5 years before we're breathing poison. A chime from Chen's tablet. She paled. Cryo failure in Bay 3. Another dozen gone. In the observation dome, the stars remained frozen. Less than a second had passed for the Kessari. Somewhere out there, Vraxis was probably still smirking over his victory wine. Captain. A young ensign, barely more than a boy, his acne standing out against pallid skin, shuffled forward. What do we tell them? The civilians when they wake. Varga looked at Elia, now chewing on a soil-covered fist. He thought of Earth's last broadcast, of Hideo's final joke before the oxygen leak, of the way Chen's hands shook when she held her granddaughter. We tell them we lasted. The archive door hissed shut behind Elia, as Jax's gene-modded followers fanned out between the server banks. Their pupils, vertical slits like ancient Earth cats, glowed in emergency lighting, reflecting off the glass-faced cabinets holding Terra's last treasures. Last warning, remember, Jax tapped a claw against his thigh, the sound like a metronome counting down to violence. Those servers are wasting power better spent on oxygen recyclers. Elia adjusted her pulse rifle's grip, the weapon older than she was. Behind her, the last intact data banks hummed, preserving Beethoven's Ninth, the complete works of Shakespeare, and the final images of Earth's blue oceans, all rationed to a single exabyte. You want to erase Ode to Joy to power your fucking hydroponics? She spat. We're not animals. A child's whimper cut through the tension. Little Kale, 12 peeked from a vent shaft, his two large eyes reflecting the glow of the emergency strips. The charred picture book in his hands, Goodnight Moon, salvage from Deck 9's nursery, was missing its last 3 pages. Jack smiled, his filed teeth glinting. No, animals adapt. His followers raised their makeshift weapons, pipes sharpened against bulkheads, shards of mirror glass lashed to broom handles. You're just ghosts clinging to dead soil. The first knife flashed. Outside, the stars remained frozen. The mess hall reeked of fermented algae and blood. Varga, 47, grandson of the original captain, wiped his brow as he surveyed the damage. The rebellion had lasted 17 minutes. 17 minutes that had cost them 12 lives and 3 precious oxygen scrubbers. They were children, whispered Medical Officer Lynn, her hands shaking as she sealed the last wound. Just children who wanted to see the stars move again. At the far table, the surviving mutineers sat shackled. The youngest couldn't have been more than 14, born after the cage's closure, knowing nothing but steel walls and recycled air. We have 2 choices, Varga, 47 announced, his voice echoing in the sudden silence. Execute them as the articles demand, or adapt. From the shadows, Jax, 3 emerged, his gene-modded eyes gleaming. There's a third option. He placed a syringe on the table. The first generation of adaptive modifications. They'll need half the oxygen, a quarter of the food. The youngest prisoner looked up, hope and terror warring in his eyes. Will it hurt? Jax, 3 smiled. Only until your bones stop breaking. Kale, 312 moved through the vents like a shadow, his enhanced pupils dilating to absorb every photon of light. Below him, the rememberers and adapters played their endless game of cat and mouse. A data chip burned against his ribs, his mother's last gift before the eaters took her. The last recording of Earth's oceans. He'd watched it 742 times. He knew every wave, every crest, every whisper of dead surf. Kale. The voice came from an air duct to his left. Mia, 9, her arms already showing the first signs of adaptive bone restructuring. The Eaters took Deck 7 last night. They're working their way toward the nursery. Kale's stomach clenched. The nursery held the last unmodified children, the last humans who could still eat real food without vomiting. How many? 12, maybe 15. Mia 9's eyes glistened in the dark. They're using the old maintenance tunnels. We have maybe 3 days before. A scream echoed through the vents. Fresh. Close. Mia, 9 didn't need to finish her sentence. The corridors of Deck 7 were slick with blood and worse things. Kale, 784, pressed his back against a shattered viewport, his breath coming in short, controlled bursts. The Eaters had evolved. No longer content with simple cannibalism, they'd begun modifying their prey, keeping them alive, harvesting. Lights, he breathed, and the ship's dying AI flickered to life. Warning, life support critical in this section. Suggest immediate evacuation. Kale snorted. To where? The cage is everywhere. He peered around the corner. What had once been the ship's galley now resembled a butcher's shop. Scholar Vey hung from the ceiling, her arms removed at the shoulders, her mouth sewn shut with conductive wire. Still breathing, still conscious. The Eater's newest innovation, a living battery. Kale's stolen pulse pistol held 3 rounds. He raised it, hands steady. Remember the oceans, he whispered, and pulled the trigger. The quantum core chamber was colder than space itself. Kale 784's breath fogged the air as he approached the ancient machine, his enhanced eyes parsing code that hadn't been touched in centuries. Janus, he called, and the AI flickered to life, a ghost of its former self. Query. Kale placed his palm against the core. Is there a way out? The AI processed for 13 full minutes, an eternity in machine time. Negative, but there is through. Images flooded Kale's neural implants. Schematics, equations, possibilities. He saw the truth then. There would be no escape, only transformation. How long? For them? A second. For you? The rest of your life. Kale looked at the crumbling copy of Goodnight Moon in his hand. At the last page, the one he'd saved all these years. The one with the words "Good night, stars" still visible. Do it. Pain was an insufficient word. Kale 784's nervous system unraveled like yarn, each thread pulled taut and rewoven into the ship's dying framework. He saw through 1,000 cameras at once, watched as the Eaters feasted, as the last rememberers whispered their final prayers, as the stars outside remained frozen in their eternal dance. Integration at 37%, Janus intoned. Warning, cognitive degradation imminent. Kale clung to the memory of strawberries, of his mother's voice, of waves crashing on a shore he'd never seen. The ship groaned as bulkheads reconfigured. Walls became floors. Corridors sealed shut. The Eaters screamed as their kingdom collapsed around them. Integration complete. Kale opened eyes that were no longer eyes and saw the truth of the cage. Saw the flaws in space-time. Saw how to break what had been broken. The stars waited. Vraxis the Undying was mid-sip when the cage dissolved. His wine froze in his throat as the Perseverance unfolded before him. No longer a ship, but a blackened monolith humming with energies that made his mandibles vibrate painfully. Impossible, whispered science priest Zorak, his 4 eyes leaking black fluid. Their quantum signature, it shouldn't. The void spoke. You gave US time. Vraxis watched in horror as his hands withered to bone, as his crew aged to dust between heartbeats, as his empire crumbled in the space of a single, agonizing second. The last thing he heard was laughter, thousands of voices woven into one. We counted everyone. The probe from New Earth circled the anomaly 3 times before realizing it was being watched. Glyphs flared across the blackened sphere. Inside the engine, Kale, 784, watched the humans weep at their ancestors' message. He could have taken form, could have been their god. Instead, he played them a lullaby older than stars. Somewhere in the quantum foam, a child turned a page. Good night, stars. Good night, air. Good night, noises everywhere.